Welcome and thank you for joining us today for a Land Services SA webinar on land divisions involving community and strata plans. This is a pre-recorded session with a live Q&A at the end of this presentation. We ask you to kindly hold all your questions until the allocated time where one of our subject matter experts will be able to assist. Land Services SA is committed to providing excellent customer experience. One way we continue to deliver value to the industry is through our industry education program, where we produce a range of helpful educational materials, hold regular webinars, and host industry events. Our industry education program addresses key topics or frequently asked questions to ensure you remain up to date with the contemporary practices. We want to help set you up for success and believe helping with industry education will help reduce the volume of requisitions, meaning a quicker and more seamless experience for your clients. Land Services SA's subject matter experts assist in delivering our industry education program, utilising their years of experience and respected place in the industry. Bill Sheekey is a Senior Division Officer for Land Services SA. He's been with LSSA since its inception in 2017 and has worked with the Lands Titles Office for 45 years. In this webinar, we'll be talking about where to look in the PPR, divisions where a community strata plan are involved, and the things we need to show to ensure they meet our requirements, the requirements for both the division plan and the community or strata amendment to be lodged at the same time, the need for 2 SCAP consents, one for each plan, and we will also present some example plans to highlight these points, and hopefully this will help you with future scenarios involving divisions over community and strata plans. Sections 10.26 to 10.31 of the PPR covers all the scenarios for a community amendment. These sections highlight the different scenarios where land is added or truncated, etc., and should be your first point of call to see where your scenario lies. Sections 11.9 to 11.14 of the PPR covers all the scenarios for a strata plan, and again, this is your first port of call to see where your scenario lies. It is highly recommended to check out these sections to see where your job would fit, and of course, if in doubt, please contact the Plans Client Advice Officer for assistance. Overview of requirements. The important thing to remember is this process is a 2-plan job. One to do the division and one to do the amendment to the community or strata plan. So it must have SCAP approval for both jobs, and both jobs should be lodged together. What we sometimes find is that the division plan is lodged up front, prior to the amendment being lodged. It gets all the way through to the examination stage, where the examiner then requisitions the surveyor to lodge the community or strata amendment. As you can imagine, some time has already elapsed, and sometimes the community or strata amendment hasn't even been attended to. So we are left waiting for the amendment to get lodged, examined, and be ready for approval before approving the division plan. Now I know what you're thinking. Why can't we approve the division plan and let it wait for the amendment to catch up? The AP dealing that needs to be lodged is for both plans. It is a dual purpose dealing, and therefore both plans are considered part of the process, and we can't approve one without the other. It is also important that the surveyor and the conveyancer communicate with each other, especially to highlight what land is affected, as those CTs must be displayed in the Other Titles Affected panel on the community or strata amendment, and the conveyancer needs to know whose consents are required. Let's look at some scenarios. Scenario 1 covers a division involving an amendment to a community plan. The division plan is the first step of the process and sets up the community or strata amendment. In the division plan, the allotments, lots, or common property affected must be shown in the subject title details. Please note, these are shown as CT on the division plan, not Part CT, as they are considered full CTs and part of the division process. In this case scenario, we have also had to vary an existing easement due to the realignment taking place, so we have a variation note in the easement details. And we have had to include these other CTs affected in the other titles affected, which weren't included in the subject title details. The example figures in the PPR are really just to highlight the requirements for the background lots, common property, and allotments that need to be shown, but they are not really very good examples of what the whole plan should look like. For us, the division plan becomes the new outer boundary plan for the amendment to the community or strata plan, so we need the full extent of the community plan shown and surveyed. The bold black lines on the division will encompass the whole community plan, but as you can see, we leave one boundary with a break in it. And the CP plan reference is actually drafted like an abuttal. You just show the community plan number. And you show the background for the lots and allotments affected. We only needed to show the lots or common property and allotments affected. But if you have gone to the effort of showing the other background lots and it hasn't cluttered the plan, we will allow them to remain, as we have in this example. Please note, we do not show an area for the CP label, as it is not treated as an allotment as such, but more like an abuttal on the division plan. The community plan needs to highlight several important points. For a community plan previously lodged as an EPL plan, these used to be the only ones we could amend through EPL, but now with DPL, all community and strata amendments can be amended through DPL and lodged in DPL as an amendment to community plan. So DPL will lead you down the path and will generate the previous land descriptions, which you will then need to adjust to fit what is happening in your plan. Is there land being truncated? Is there land being added? If added, we need to add the PTCT and the land description of the CT shown in the subject title details in the division plan on the community plan. If truncated, as is the case in our example, we need to highlight that land has been taken from the original CT by amending the original CT reference generated to show PTCT in the subject title details. So in our example plan, we have shown the labels substitute sheets. We have shown the division plan as our last plan reference. We have shown two SCAP certificate numbers in the development number, the previous one and the new one. The subject title details have been changed to PTCT as the land has been truncated from other community plan to be added to the adjoining land, and the other titles affected will display the lots affected by the amendment, so the conveyancer knows who is involved. In this example, we also had a variation of the easement which we needed to highlight in the annotations by adding a notation that easement A affected by the AP. It is very important that the conveyancer is made aware and communicated with to ensure everyone is on the same page, especially as regards the other titles affected, as this impacts on them as regards whom they need to contact. Our diagram sheet looks just like a new community plan, except we have shown one substitute sheet, and we have shown our D119948 as an abuttal. Scenario 2. Our next scenario is a division over what was a manual community plan. As all amendments are now lodged through DPL, the need for manual plan lodgements has ceased, which is great news for everyone and it makes life a lot easier. Previously, this was a very clunky procedure, with plans being lodged manually on film or heavy paper over the front counter, with payment made by cheque. DPL has changed all that, and plans are now lodged through DPL and examination fees paid then. The plans now look just like a normal DPL plan. The division is as previously shown and reflects the land being divided in the subject title details. In this case, portion of lot 100 is being added to the allotment next door. The diagram sheet is, as per the previous examples, shows the full extent of the bold black lines with one line of the bold black line shown with a break in it. It shows the C23993 as the land description, and in this case again, they have chosen to show all the background allotment, lots and common property, but they could have just shown lot 100 and allotment 8 if they had wished. As per the previous example, we show substitute sheet labels, the two SCAP numbers, the subject title details, and the other titles affected. The diagram sheet shows the substitute sheet label, and our D123739 is our rebuttal. Scenario 3. Now let's talk about divisions involving strata plans. As you all know, all these plans used to be lodged as manual plans, but we are now able to lodge these plans through DPL. As per the Community Plan Amendment, the Division Plan and Strata Amendment must be lodged together, and the DP will become the new outer boundary. In the past, the Strata Plan had to be lodged manually by the conveyancer and couldn't be lodged by the surveyor with the Division Plan up front, as previously the Strata Amendment must be lodged with the AP dealing. With the introduction of DPL, we have eliminated the need to have the plan lodged with the AP by the conveyancer as a manual plan and have allowed the surveyor to lodge both plans at the same time. This is because we need both plans lodged together as they are dealt with by the one dealing. In the past, with division plans having been lodged by the surveyor and the Strata Amendment lodged manually by a conveyancer, sometimes the Strata Amendment hadn't been lodged, so we have examined the DP, but we can't approve the division because we don't have the Strata Amendment yet, and we could be waiting for the conveyancer to lodge the manual plan with the AP dealing. Sometimes the Strata Amendment hadn't ever been done, as they didn't realise we required both plans. With DPL, we will get both plans ready for approval and approve both plans at the same time if the AP dealing has been lodged. Otherwise, we will hold off approval to await the AP to be lodged. Ideally, the surveyor and the conveyancer should be coordinating lodging the plans and dealings at the same time, so we can process it accordingly. The other issue with strata plans, especially the older ones, is when a surveyor comes in to do an amendment, he is certified the whole plan, and therefore any additions or improvements made to a strata scheme have to be disclosed as well, which therefore impacts the other titles affected, as it may have other units that have additions to their property and therefore now part of the AP. Whenever we have had inquiries asking about what is the best way to process these strata amendments, upon investigation of the strata plan, it would sometimes appear that potentially the strata plan could be converted to community, especially if the units are all separate dwellings, and even not separate but single story or townhouses, and the walls between the units fit the fire rating requirements. It could still be converted to lots by this amendment. The division plan looks exactly like the community plan divisions, but this time we are dealing with units and common property, and the unit affected is shown in the subject title details. The diagram sheet is drafted like the others, with the full extent of the BBL shown with a break in the line of one of the boundaries. The S14186 is shown more like an abuttal, and the background data is shown. The strata amendment is lodged through DPL. It shows the substitute sheet label, the DP is the last plan reference, the two SCAP consents are shown, the subject title details is amended to reflect the extra portion being added by showing PTCT for the part of allotments 4 being added to the strata scheme. The other titles affected shows the CT affected, and as mentioned earlier, if other units are affected because they have had extensions or additions added, like verandas, sheds, etc., the surveyor must now disclose them. So their CT references are added to the other titles affected as well, which was the case here, because Unit 2 had an extension to its building, so the common property CT and Unit 2 CT is also included in the other titles affected. The new bulkback line is reflected on both the site plan and the ground floor plan, but we have just shown the ground floor in this case scenario as it shows the sub-labels. And like the previous amendments, all requirements as regarded substitute sheet, label and our division plan being shown as the abuttal apply. Finally, We just wanted to show you a Strata amendment where they had decided to convert the Strata to a community plan. To convert a Strata to a community plan, a lodgement of resolution, LR dealing, must be lodged up front and an outer boundary plan must be completed if no adequate outer boundary exists. So when the amendment plan is lodged, it's lodged as the community amendment with the Strata plan number still being maintained. As you can see, they have chosen to adopt the Community Titles Act by previously lodging an LR dealing to adopt the Community Titles Act, and we have updated the Strata plan accordingly. However, in this example case, when they were going through the process to convert, and they had gone out to do the outer boundary plan, that they disclosed that the adjoining allotment was encroaching onto the common property and Unit 3 was encroaching onto allotment 65. To rectify this situation, instead of lodging the outer boundary, they had to do it as a division plan. The division includes all the land affected by the division in the subject title details, the same as all the other plans. So in this case, Unit 3, Common Property, and Allotment 65 are included in the subject title details. The CTs on the division plan are shown as CT as we are dealing with the whole of CT in division. As you can see, the division plan is over the units, as it is still a strata plan. Therefore, background is labelled as units. The presentation is per the previous plans as regards to the BBL, strata plan number, and background references. The new amendment plan comes in under the Community Titles Act because they lodged their LR dealing up front. So this is a conversion and therefore keeps its original strata number, but is shown as C2506 now. Everything else is the same as the previous amendment plans as regards substitute sheet labels, the last plan reference, etc. But in this case, they didn't have a development number shown originally, so only the new one is shown. The diagram sheet looks just like a new community plan with the lots defined by full data. The plan number is now C2506. It is shown as a substitute sheet and our division plan becomes our rebuttal. In summary, the key points to remember are: check the PPR to find the best scenario that fits. 2 plans are required and both plans must be lodged together, as the AP dealing is for both plans. Both the division and amendments to community or strata plan are now lodged through DPL. There are 2 SCAP consents required, 1 for each plan. The community amendment and strata amendment must show the original SCAP reference if available, and the new one on its textual sheet. All sheets on the amendments are labelled substitute sheet. The other titles affected display lots, units, or common property CTs affected. Subject title details are amended to reflect if land truncated or added. Easement affected require a note in the annotations, and if converting a strata plan, the LR dealing must be lodged up front for the amendment to go through as a community amendment. Land Services SA's website has a range of educational and support materials to assist you in your day-to-day work. Our Industry Education Hub is a great place to start. This can be found by clicking Industry Education Hub on the homepage of LSSA's website. A copy of today's webinar will be published on the Industry Education Hub together with a recording of previously held webinars. That concludes the recorded part of the webinar. Thank you for listening. Please remain online for the live Q&A session with our subject matter experts.